You're listening to A Splash More with Bailey and Haley, two moms, 12 years apart, who aren't afraid to spill it.
Around here, we pour the wine, tell the truth, and skip the sugarcoating.
So grab your glass. It's time for A Splash More.
Well, I'm so excited. We're here with Bryana Kappadakunnel. She is actually somebody that I look up to very much, someone that I worked with when I first had my first son, and she's really helped me get through that first stage of motherhood, which is very fitting because she wrote a book called Parent Yourself First. And it's a lot of what we'll be talking about today is just, we always have conversations about being the biggest, best, brightest version of yourself. And not only that, being the extra version. And what I've learned, and I think you can attest to this too, is just like going through this journey and realizing like how many triggers we have as a parent and how much, from our past comes into being a mother or a parent, and where that can sometimes bring you back, right? And can hold you down and can stop you from really stepping into your most powerful self. So thank you so much for being here. We're thrilled to have you.
Do you want to do a little intro for yourself?
Yeah.
Just kind of share a little bit more about what you do now and who you are. And
Sure. So I'm Bryana Kappadakunnel, as you guys said, and I'm local here. I have a practice in Redondo Beach. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in perinatal, infant, and early childhood mental health. I'm the founder of Conscious Mommy, which is my online community that I run for parents of children birth to 12 years old who are aching to unlearn their past and heal their wounds so that they can show up for their children and even in their lives in the way that they really desire to. And then I wrote a book, as you said, Parent Yourself First, where I teach you how to raise confident, compassionate kids by becoming the parent you never had.
Yeah.
And I have two kids. I have right now, they're currently 7 and almost 5. And I'm really glad to not be in the stage of motherhood that you two are in.
love the honesty.
Thank you for that. It's rough.
It's hard. It's
hard.
really hard. I was just at a birthday party yesterday, and it was for a 3-year-old. And my kids were like the oldest kids by, several years, two, sometimes in one case it was like 4 years. And everybody holding the babies, rocking the babies, feeding the babies. And I was like, I don't even know where my kids are right now. They're somewhere running off out the park.
We thrive. We are like, that is where we're going to thrive.
1,000%. She always says that to me. She's like, Bailey, just on a hard day, Bailey, 5 years from now, just come on, hold on. 5 years from now.
We're going to be in
right.
Mexico
Yep.
with a margarita.
It's always Mexico with margaritas.
It's really like
Always.
a hold on though, because in those early stages, man, you are just holding on and like hoping to get up and hoping to have a freaking breath. And I'm at that stage now where that's happening, and
Bliss.
I love that for you.
definitely a little bit more regulated than I was even just a few years ago. So I don't envy you guys, but I also love and support you.
Thank you.
Exactly where you
She's
are.
a girl's girl. I love that
She
energy.
is, man.
I love
And
that so
we
much.
always joke about our age difference. So there's a 12-year almost age gap between Bailey and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's
Part of what makes our unique connection so special.
It's totally true. And you asked us earlier, like, why this? How? When did this all come together? And that was part of it. We were like, we actually have a very unique perspective on all things, right? Like this, because of our unique age difference as friendships go. And so it really helped us to kind of like pull this together and be like, all right, we have so much to talk about. You have a perspective from this young, bubbly 30-something-year-old, and I'm old, decrepit 43. That's how she likes to phrase it sometimes.
Oh, decrepit is a ruin in my vocabulary, but it is now.
It
Fuel
is now.
for the fire.
Great. I want to go back a little bit to something that you said because I mentioned it earlier, but I immediately got like shelled up when I had to think about talking about like my mother or my father. And it's really hard to have these conversations because I always say, and it's something that I learned through work, is that our parents did the best that they could with the information that they had in the moment. It's really the thing that has supported me in kind of like releasing my parents from whatever happened, which wasn't that bad. And I'm not qualifying it because I know that there are people out there who have had really traumatic situations. But just, being able to own that and to say that has helped me to move forward. But I still do get nervous talking about it because I don't want to hurt feelings or like give false perceptions. And maybe that is me qualifying a little bit or feeling like I need to validate my trauma or my pain from growing up. But if you could like give us any tips or feedback on how to kind of release that and be able to talk about things, or is it like a conversation you have with the parent first? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. We have to be willing to have hard conversations if we want to feel truly close and intimate with people.
Yeah.
Emotionally safe with people. And if there isn't freedom to have hard conversations, that there's something compromising that emotional safety.
Yeah.
So when we were little, most of us were probably conditioned in some way or the other by the way that our parents responded, especially to our negative emotions, to be very protective of our parents' emotions, their emotional states and their needs. And so now, even as adults, I mean, everything you're saying is just exactly what I hear in my practice. We are afraid to talk about what hurt us because we're afraid of it hurting our parents to share the honest truth. And it also, I think there's, we're like losing nuance in some way, I think, as AI takes over our brains and 30-second reels are rotting away our attention spans. We are losing nuance. And nuance here in this case is I love you, Mom, and you're a great mom. And here are some things that happened that hurt me. And it's important to me that you know of that you're aware of that. Where we need to keep our expectations level is in how they receive it. That's right. Because usually what I find is that our hope then is that they then take accountability and they say like, oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for telling me that I hurt you. That takes an evolved person. That takes an emotionally mature person, right? And that's very difficult. And they will, if the pattern between the two of you is that you don't tread on mom or dad's emotions, and now all of a sudden you are, and then their response is to dismiss you, diminish you, deny you, repress you, shove you into a box, that is 100% what they are going to do. They're not going to suddenly behave differently because you will it. Right. That doesn't happen. Not unless they're on their own healing journey. They're going to therapy and they are working on themselves.
Yeah, I think that's a completely fair thing. And so Bailey and I have different relationships with we're going to talk about our moms probably more.
Well, it's strange though, because I thought she and I met today, but she just described my last 3 years. So
I know.
I'm just kind of shook.
She was like, yes.
Yes.
No, but that's why I want to mention it, because as she was talking, I'm like, oh, this is probably really resonating.
1,000%.
And I just wanted to say, like, I'm like listening to you talk, and I've been working on myself for a very long time. And I think a lot of my healing journey came from, it's like leveled up since my brother's passing, because a lot of what occurred in my childhood was just based on being in a 3-sibling family in the middle and having this older brother who was like the star and, popular, the star athlete, all the things. And then a little sister who is great today, but she was ill as a kid. She had epilepsy. She had some other learning disabilities and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like me floating in the middle. So being able to have conversations with my parents growing up was really hard, because it just was like either overlooked, or as it got to be older, I got to be older, it just didn't matter anymore. That's the way it felt. And so when I started going through my journey of like working through things and healing and trying to figure out why I was doing things the way I was doing them, one of the things, that came up is just being able to have the conversation with them. And at first it was met with a lot of just like nothing terrible, but just more like, no,
we're not talking about like a shutdown.
Yeah. Like a shutdown and dismissive and more like, this is not what happened. You're just being over dramatic, whatever the case may be, like all of the
denial of your reality.
Yes. Denial of my reality. Thank you. And then as I got older and older and I kept trying because I just am one of those people, I don't give up. We've talked about this a lot on the podcast, but if someone really matters to me, which is...
It's why we're friends. You didn't give up.
I didn't give up. I don't give up easily. Man, there are some relationships I should have, given up way earlier than I did. But no, not with my parents, of course. And so I kept trying and trying and trying. And eventually they really like warmed up to just hearing me and like every step, every year, every conversation, it was a little more like, okay, we can see how that might have happened. It's still not like completely acknowledged or, we don't talk about it at Thanksgiving at all, nor should we anymore. But it's just been nice to kind of like see the progression of how they've slowly come around to it. So I want to give my parents a little bit of like props for that. But I also want to acknowledge that like that generation just didn't have the tools. That's my experience. And maybe I'm just using that as an excuse, but it just seemed to me that they didn't have the tools. They didn't grow up being like, oh, you should go to therapy or you should work through your problems or here's a book that you can read to help you like go through things. And a lot of, our parents are in the same generation, ironically enough. I have very young parents.
I have very old parents.
Yeah. Or do we all have boomer parents? Are we talking about boomer parents?
Boomer parents.
My parents are boomer parents. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We're in the 50s.
Okay.
They were born of parents who were like in the Depression and World War II and stuff like that. So I think a lot of that, not to make excuses, but it does help to explain or give them a little more grace.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what my question is other than I wanted to acknowledge a couple of things. But don't you think that's right? Don't you think it's true?
We can always understand how somebody's past might influence the choices that they make, right? And that allows us to explain behavior. It allows us to explain circumstances. It allows us to explain patterns and have a lot of grace for that and have a lot of compassion for that. Not just the previous generation, but I actually invite parents and mothers especially to do that for themselves right now, to also give yourself that same kind of grace and be aware that there is a reason why you are yelling or you might be acting out yourself. So sure, we can always explain. And then what you had said about the excusing, right? It doesn't excuse harm that has happened.
Right.
And so when there's been harm, whether in the other person, and this isn't any relationship dynamic, right? You can apply this to anything. You can apply this to like adult child to parent. You can apply this from current kid to yourself right now.
Sure.
Whenever there is harm, it is not the person who's being accused of doing the harm. It's not their job to justify if it was harm or not. If someone is saying, you hurt me, your job as the person hearing that information is to say, tell me more.
Yeah.
I want to understand.
Yeah.
Right? That's a level of maturity and accountability that I don't actually see happening in the boomer generation for whatever reason, whether it wasn't taught to them or they're just getting to the point now where they want to just live happy and they want to live with whatever narrative it is that they have about their lives.
They don't go in the past.
They don't want to, they're not interested.
That reminds me of two specific statements I've heard on both sides of me and my husband's family. One is, you are making way too big a deal out of this. And of course, I just had them both lost my train of thought. 1,000 weeks pregnant.
That's it.
And after all I've done for you.
Oh, God. The dreaded.
A favorite of mine. It honestly is laughable to me at this point because I also have done so much significant work on myself that I'm just like, oh, here we are back at the all I've ever done for you. But it just exactly what you're describing pinpointed both of those in my own personal experience right into my brain.
But it's also like they're your parents, right? Like they should do, maybe that's not the right way to approach it, but I'm like, if someone says that to me, my parents have not said that to me. So that's another thing I have not received from them. But I would imagine the feeling is, you're my parents. You're supposed to do things for me, right? Like that's
So what has to be unlearned in the modern parents, us, the ones that are raising this next generation, is this idea that our sacrifice of parenting creates an obligation in the next generation, right? We have to unlearn that. We do for our children because, just as you said, Haley, because we have to. That's literally our job. That's what when we signed up, when we created this child,
choice.
Correct, and brought them into the world, that was our responsibility. Our kids owe us nothing. Right. And that is very, very, very difficult for a lot of the older generation to wrap their heads around because they were not raised that way. They were raised with the idea that you do owe the older generation. You do owe your elders. You owe them your respect. You owe them your time. You owe them your care. You
money,
yes,
whatever it is.
You actually own them. In fact, there are many laws in different states where there's like a law of familial care that if like your parent is aging and dying and they don't have any money, like you have to financially provide for them as the child. I know for sure in PA I think it's also a law here in California. Double check that source. But my point is that it's so burned into our culture, our society. Every aspect of our being, I think, is in this obligation of having to care. And I think that this current generation of parents is saying, we want to rethink that.
Yeah.
We want to do this differently. I don't want my children to feel obligated. I want to actually create secure, healthy relationships where the mutual respect is effortless because we're both invested in each other, not because it's this hierarchical, system where I'm above you and you listen to me because I'm the parent and because I said so. But instead, we're all together, working together, co-creating something really special and important and beautiful within our family system. That is what I see most people aiming for, or at least the people that come to me in my practice and the people who connect with me online. That's what they're seeking. And I really believe that is what we need to see a lot more of if we want to see a much better world, a much better society for our children to grow up in. Obviously, I'm very passionate about this. And
I love it. So beautifully said.
I see it as something that's like, we make these little changes within ourselves, which then impacts how we parent our children. And then those changes, like, what's the word I'm looking? It's like the benefits it multiplies.
Effect.
Exactly.
A
domino effect. And it pushes everything out into the world where now our children are the empathy that we need more of. And our children are the compassion that we need so much more of. And our children bring the healing that we desperately need. I cannot think of a more relevant message than that in now, 2025 of American society. So
that hits me like deep as a soon-to-be double boy mom, which I know you mentioned to me earlier that you are, because I had a very strong longing to have a daughter, and just seeing like your soul light up and how much you clearly have healed through your boys and your own parenting journey is really beautiful. And it makes me excited for mine, especially because I'm still in a lot of ways healing from the experience with my first. And as mentioned to you also today, prior to us hopping on the mic.
What do you think draws you? And I'm going to switch. I'm going to be the interviewer.
Oh, please.
Just for a moment.
It on.
What draws you to the idea of having a daughter? What is that about for you? I'm curious.
Good one.
It is one. You know the answer to this.
I did. I called her out on
She
it
did.
before we were even like super close friends.
I want to know.
Yeah.
I pushed.
It fits perfectly into this conversation, so I'm glad you asked. I realized after we found out we were having a second boy, as I kind of did my work to get through that, that a core piece of that for me was definitely that I needed to heal the pieces of me that didn't have the mom that I desired growing up. And the mom that I still struggle to find level ground with now. It's a conversation we have openly, and I've, found ways to navigate that relationship in ways that work for us to maintain it. But I've also had to accept that she will never be able to meet me in the ways that I need, especially emotionally. The statement I made prior about, that you're making way too much of a big deal out of this was something that was directly said by my mother after I had, for lack of a better term, poured my heart out and really spent days kind of preparing to really openly share my feelings with her, actually on Mother's Day. This has so many wild ties to it because it was the Mother's Day of 2022. And after I, spoke at great length about this, I'm a big feeler. So there were, of course, tears and a multitude of emotions going on there. And her response was exactly that. I just think you're making way too big a deal out of this. And that was the moment I knew that I would never get what I needed. Yeah. And I needed to take the time to figure out what that meant on my end. And I found out I was pregnant with my first son a week later. Like I was already pregnant on that Mother's Day, which is wild just to think about what I was going through emotionally. And then finding out I was becoming a mom.
Wow, that is so much at one time.
Yeah.
And to just go into that with the hope that you would be seen and she could hold you. And then having to feel that disappointment. Again, I'm guessing it's an again. That's not being able to be met. That is so heavy and so hard, and it's so real. And I think that it is something that we try to do, at least as conscious parents, which is that tends to be the people who I speak to, are people that are invested in a more conscious way of parenting.
Absolutely.
We're trying to do that. We're trying to hold our kids emotionally. We're trying to see them. We're trying to help them feel understood. We're trying to help them make sense of what's happening in their lives so that they don't feel like they're crumbling every time something feels difficult or hard, or they're shutting down, or they're getting small, or they're, fighting it out just to like have their space in the spotlight. Yes. That they just feel like they can exist, and that the way they exist is enough and it's okay. And I think that, being able to like come face to face with those wounds through the motherhood journey is really profound. And I don't think that we can really get to like the depth of that work until we are parents ourselves.
Yes.
You can do a lot of work on yourself until you become a parent, if that's the life that you choose, or somehow it chooses you. But then it's like you level up, your healing journey levels up once you have that kid, because now you really are face to face. Now you have this kid who's screaming at you and demanding that you see him, hear him, and hold him. And you're biting your tongue not to dismiss him and tell him, come on, kid, you're making too much of a big deal out of this, right? And then when that comes out of your mouth, you're like, Jesus, Bailey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I promised myself I wouldn't do that, right? And now we get to work on those parts of ourselves, those little like kid parts of ourselves that are so conditioned to feel big, feel strongly, and then silence and get small because that's what's safer.
Yeah.
And we get to work on that in the context of raising our children. That's why I say like our children are actually our biggest teachers. You went to mom being a teacher to her. She's not able to learn from you. And that's sad. That's sad that she's not able to. And now this little boy is going to come to you, and this next little boy is going to come to you, and they're going to be your teachers. And then you get to have that choice. You get to do it differently. I want to learn. How do I learn from you? And that is how the healing happens. It doesn't happen in finally mom saying, you know what, you're right. You're right. I did hurt you. That you won't find healing in that. No. You never will. You will find healing through your own experience of doing for your kids what you needed and what they technically need, and doing for yourself what you need for yourself. Stopping and listening when you're feeling charged. Giving yourself that experience of being held, whether you call a girlfriend or you practice it yourself, that is true healing. I will shout it from the rooftops forever.
No, as you should. And it's so funny. I'm hearing you talk, and it's making sense why you have a son like Beckett, right?
I was thinking about him the whole time.
Yeah, me
Beckett
too.
is my feeler, big feeler. And I've said it from the day he was a really challenging, like the whole first year of his life specifically. And it sounds funny to people, I'm sure, but I say that I genuinely think this kid hated being a baby because he felt like his body couldn't catch up with his brain. He's really smart and he's really independent and he is a big feeler. And until he could communicate those feelings, which is still very difficult in a young one to understand, right? Like he's 2.5, he's still learning to regulate and all the things. But he has been my biggest teacher in that way. Like that's all I could think about that whole time. I know you were,
I was thinking about like the PJs, and he doesn't like to put PJs on. Is getting
hates diaper changes, hates PJs.
So when we talk about it, it's like, oh, why is it a big deal, right? To put pajamas on. And as she's speaking to you, I'm like, ooh, maybe we shouldn't say, why is it a big deal? Because for whatever reason,
it is
his little body and his little mind has decided that putting pajamas on is a really big deal. And I'm sure later in life, he'll be able to, maybe you won't, maybe you will, I don't know, explain to you why it felt like that. But maybe it'll manifest in a different way in a bigger situation. And he'll know, oh, this reminds me of that time I felt like I didn't want to put my PJs on and they heard me or they listened or they found a new way to address, getting dressed.
Yeah, they supported me.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're looking for, right? Is support. We bring a problem to somebody. We want them to support us.
Yeah.
We want them to show us the way if we need that, or we want them to just say, we love you, we're here for you. Like, we just want something. And it doesn't matter if you're an infant. It doesn't matter if you're, near the grave. And if you're reaching out, it's just because you need support.
Yeah. And I am proud of myself through talking through this with you, because I do find, I say about him frequently, with him being my big feeler, that he is just like me in that way. Like, truly, I know it about myself. I'm a deep, deep feeler, and he is too. And I say all the time that as challenging as that is now to foster in a young human, I just know there are going to be so many moments over his lifetime where I see why I fostered that and why I nurtured that and how beautiful it's become, because it's pieces of me too. And I'm learning that through him.
Oh my gosh. We started this. You guys were
I
like,
you
guys were like, we like to tell jokes. We like to keep this light and fun. And now we're like all crying and like passing the tissues.
I know.
100%. I know.
I'm sorry.
Don't worry. We're going to get to the...
It's okay. No, I love it. I honestly, it like is cliche, but I do feel just so seen and validated by you, because Haley has heard a lot of this from me, but I do genuinely think there are people who will just never understand like what I've been through when it comes to, of course, like familial relationships, but also just when you have a deep feeling, sensitive kid. It's like I said, it's extremely challenging, especially when they're this little, but it's also really beautiful because they're like these just wonderful. He is also the most gentle, sensitive, like just care. He's 2.5 and this kid like just cares so deeply about other people. Like he always wants other people to feel included, whether it's me or his friends or his teachers, do you want to do this with me? It's just so tender.
He is very tender. I always tell Bailey, like, I need to talk very quiet around Beckett. I want him to feel very like no escalation. So whenever she's told me in the past that he's like been screaming all night, I'm like, I can't believe it, because he's just so like sweet, and he's the opposite. That's a terrible segue. I was going to say he's so sweet, and then there's Cameron,
who's a bro.
Yeah, he is a bro. Cameron is totally sweet in his own ways, but it kind of is bringing up some things for me that I'm listening, to your story and to you kind of work through her with her story of just, I'm like, what does it feel like for me? Like really think about it, because I think I've been in this, for lack of a better term, rat race of just like having babies. I'm like, okay, this all has happened so fast.
You have.
Yeah. I haven't had a second to just sit back and be like, where is this coming up for me? And I think what I'm starting to realize, there's two things, because I have a son and a daughter. With my son, I've noticed myself looking at him and being like, do you have any characteristics that scare me? And when I say that, I mean characteristics that like maybe my brother had, or maybe
that you're,
maybe things that I don't like about my dad or my mom or even my husband, right? Are there things that scare me? And I think a lot of that comes up from just some of the scary situations that I felt like I was in my childhood, or even like in my younger adult life.
Scarcity too is a topic I feel like you bring up often with yourself that you struggle with, whether it be financially, as a parent. There are a lot of multitudes of that in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So with my son, he's very hot, and he has the ability to like switch. So he's super sweet, he's super kind, he's super gentle for the most part, but he has this like button that can switch, and he's just like a maniac. And so I do find myself, rather than finding ways to parent him appropriately, which I know that I want to do, I am more in my own fear. I'm like, oh, this is that thing that I don't like. And, obviously Callie's only 7 months old, so I haven't really fully seen those parts of her yet.
Yeah.
I'm going to validate it again, because I know my mom will listen to this, and I know my mom thinks that I'm smart, and she loves that I have a platform like this. But we just don't have the kind of relationship that I always wanted growing up, or that I want as an adult. And we just haven't been able to figure out how to find it. Maybe we will. There's always time, right? And so when I look at Callie, I look at her and I'm like, oh, I'm just like praying that I'm making the right choices and seeing the right things. And I'm like trying to be on my best behavior for her, because I don't want her to grow up feeling this way. And so
what is the way?
What is the way?
That's the work for you. You got to figure out what is this way. There's so much pain in your voice. When you talk about this. I sense it. And I think that, again, I think there's this protective part of you that's like, I don't know if I really want to get into that pain. Because then I might have to look at my life in ways that maybe take away what I've decided is, right? Because that's how you survive. It always comes back to how we learn to survive and how we cope with what feels painful and stressful.
Perfectionism, right? That's really, I know that that's what the answer is. It's perfectionism. That's how I've learned how to survive. It's just the only way I know. If I don't speak perfectly, if I don't show up perfectly. What is beneath
perfectionism for you?
For me, like, what is the root cause?
What's underneath it? So perfection is what we do to deal with something deeper.
Well, I think for me, it was always, I never felt seen. And so by being a perfectionist, I was always perfect at everything. So it was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep trying to be more perfect at something else and something new. And maybe this next thing will be the thing that like makes me feel seen or makes me feel important enough.
There you go.
So
it's the enoughness.
Enough.
That's what's beneath it. The worth. The sense of worth. And so then we have to deal with that shadow of shame. That surrounds issues of worth. So when you look at her and you say, please don't feel about me the way I feel about my mom, that doesn't even have anything to do with your mom.
Right.
You're wanting her to see the good in you because you are afraid of her seeing what you think is unworthy and bad. And that's what you're like cognitively unconsciously desiring. Don't see my bad parts. Only see my good parts, because then you'll want me. That is the work that we have to do.
Right.
And let go of that. Let her see your bad parts.
There are none.
I know.
There it is.
But let her see. We do have to let our kids see our bad parts, because how else are they going to deal with their bad parts? Right? And I use the word bad parts very, very loosely, because it's not like there really are any bad parts. There's just shadow parts.
Us as real human beings.
Human parts.
Yes.
Scary parts that we learn to deny or push down or be afraid of, like our big feeling part. That's not a bad part, but if you've been conditioned your whole life that your big feelings are inconvenient, then yes, you're going to feel like there's something very wrong with your big feelings. If you were conditioned to believe that you're only wanted when you are performing perfectly, then your imperfections are going to be experienced as bad. And that is what we have to deal with now in our journey of being mothers and fathers, if there's men who listen to this. We have to deal with that right now so that our kids, so that we can help pave the way for our kids to deal with that, because they are going to have to deal with that. Right. That's just human. That is part of this human experience, and being in this physical form is we got to deal with imperfection. We got to know how to handle shame. We got to know how to tolerate discomfort. We got to know how to tolerate pain. Right? Nothing is more painful than being human. And you can't even know full joy, full bliss, full unconditional love unless you've actually experienced pain, darkness, hurt, sorrow. You have like, it's the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Now am I getting too esoteric? But it's true. Like you really do have to know the darkness in order to really experience the light of this experience.
That's something that I said as I was going through my pregnancy with my daughter, because it was like I was going through ultimate grief and pain against ultimate joy and like all of the things. It was the wildest journey from, my brother passed when she was 8, and I was 8 weeks pregnant, and I heard her heartbeat the day after he died for the first. It was just like a wild.
I feel like that's the true definition of like grief and joy can coexist, because how were they not for you in that moment, right?
He died on June 4th, and our appointment to hear her heartbeat for the first time was on June 5th.
I'll never forget that. Yeah.
And I remember walking into the fertility clinic, and they like guided me because I just walked in and like, look, I am in a really horrible space. I know we need to do this. They put me in like a private room. They like handled it so kindly because it was just so much joy and so much grief in one room at one time. But just going through that, I kept saying, one thing that helped me work through it is, how am I to know this kind of joy and this kind of love if I don't know this kind of pain, right? Like how you can't know one without the other. You have to understand that they both exist together. And it was really one of the only ways that I could really cope with my brother's loss through my pregnancy, staying grounded, staying, mentally healthy, physically healthy. I just knew that those two things needed to exist together. And I was one of the fortunate ones who was able to work through it, because I know a lot of times we're just so heavy and deep in the hurt and the pain that it's hard to kind of like see the other side of it. So it was a wild journey, but we're on the other side.
But it's so important that you were able to hold both and allow space for both. I think that what maybe happens for a lot of folks is, when we're really deep in grief, we won't even allow ourselves to access joy. Or grief is so painful that we shove it away and pretend like it isn't even there. I feel like that's very common in the boomer generation. Yeah. Just like move on so that we're chasing the joy, but then never really feeling the depths of the joy, because the lingering grief that hasn't been acknowledged is pulling us back and holding us back.
Well, it's this idea that you're not supposed to, right? Like you're not supposed to feel there's something wrong if you're feeling joy. And I truly think if it had been any other time in my life or situation, I might have gone down that path. But how do you not feel joy being pregnant with a new child, and like a choice that I worked very hard for?
Yeah, I'm with you. My mom died 6 weeks before my wedding.
Oh.
And I just remember feeling like, am I allowed to like be happy that I'm getting married?
Yeah.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
Is this okay? Will people think I was a bad daughter because I want to be happy on my wedding day? And that was 10 years ago. And I was only so far in my healing journey. So no, I wasn't very happy on my wedding day. I faked a smile. I did what I could, but I didn't have models of healthy grief.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know how to grieve, right? Even though I had been through a lot of grief, I didn't know how to, right? And so I think a big part too of what we're trying to do for our own children is, again, like not shield them from the human experience.
Yeah.
And grief and sadness and sorrow and imperfection and pain and hard things. That is just as much of part of the human experience as the joy and the fun and the vacations and the play dates and the this and the that and all the stuff that fills our lives and makes us so excited and so happy to be alive. And yeah, I mean, I have no idea how we got to this part of the conversation.
No, this is what we do here. So just to wrap it up a little bit, because again, we could probably sit and talk for hours. So for you, and I don't think we need to say it in the same context because you wrote a whole book on it, but maybe it is in this space too. We always like to say, like, what is your splash more? You've done so much in your life and you've just accomplished this great accomplishment of authoring and publishing and releasing a book. What is your next? What is that next thing that's going to level you up that you feel like you haven't said out loud yet? Like we want the tea. We don't want the thing that you're already talking about, the thing that you're already working on. Yeah. It's like, what's that next thing? Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it is the radical honesty no matter what. No longer being afraid of if my words will hurt. Because I'm a very highly sensitive person. You know, I grew up with a ton of trauma and a ton of abuse. And so I'm naturally very hypervigilant. I can walk into a room. I don't even have to know anyone in that room. And I can tell you what the vibe of the room is, what everybody's feeling. And then I'm extra sensitive to it the entire time. Like that just literally does not turn off for me. And then as a result, it makes me feel like I need to tiptoe around how I'd really like to express myself. Because I'm afraid of maybe somebody viewing me in the way I don't want to be viewed, or me saying something that's a little too harsh or a little too out there, a little too progressive, a little too radical, a little too, I can't believe, how dare she say that? You know what I mean? And I just decided I'm done with that. No way in hell am I ever going to do that again, because there's nothing that is worth that amount of labor and that amount of sanity. No. From now on, I speak the truth. And even if the truth hurts, I speak the truth. It always comes from love. It always comes from a place of deep care and respect. Right? Because you don't need to speak the truth in a way that tears anybody down or hurts anybody. But the truth does need to be spoken. And not that I wasn't a truth speaker before. I think when you read the book, I was. But now I'm bolder about it. I'm not dancing around this subject anymore. I'm just saying what the fuck I need to say. And just letting it be.
Fuck yeah.
Right? Just letting it be.
I just have to say something so funny. Before you came on, I said to Bailey, look, she's like a professional. I was like, no. This is amazing.
No, first I was like, Haley, our entire podcast is about being yourself and stepping into yourself. Yes. Don't tell me to dim my light. I was like, don't tell me I can't say the F word.
I was like, you're right. But she wrote a book. We probably shouldn't swear as much. Not that we swear a lot, but like, you know, the words.
I love an F-bomb.
Yeah, they come up every now and then. I'm like, it's like Miss Rachel meets like a different kind of intelligence. We have to talk.
That was literally her description.
So it's so funny that you're sitting here being like, no. And like throwing F-bombs. I'm like, okay, great.
See, actually,
you were already fearing something.
I was also, I think maybe I probably trained you that way.
That's true.
Like I trained you that way because of how I felt. I felt a need to present myself in a certain way in Mommy and Me.
Yes.
I felt I need to present myself online on social media because I have a social media following as well. And, you know, people get hard on women who, you know, drop F-bombs, especially therapist women, right? Because therapists, God forbid, we say fuck.
Yes.
And I always try to remind people, like, I am from Pittsburgh.
Saying it, I'm like,
like,
no.
I love it.
But I try to remind people, like, I'm from the East Coast. I am an East Coast Italian. I am from Pittsburgh. Like,
I'm from Boston.
Honey girl. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like, we have to be real. So I'm rebranding.
You're spicing it up, sis. I love it.
Yes. I'm turning 39 this year.
Yes.
Okay. So we're getting toward the end of another decade.
Yep.
I love it.
It's time to stop pretending and stop being so concerned with other people's thoughts and feelings of me. Like I just can't pay, we just cannot pay mind to that.
No.
Like I don't have time for it. Like I just don't.
No.
I'm loving this because stepping, like that's my specialty is like unapologetically stepping into yourself and the energy you're giving off right now. I'm like,
Yes.
bring it.
Yes.
Bring
I
it
welcome
on.
it so
Love it all.
much.
Good.
1,000%.
Yes.
All right.
That is, I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to go follow you and just like continue seeing your journey bloom. And I can't thank you enough for being on with us today.
Yes.
Like Haley said, I could talk for hours and I can't wait to read your book.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever is out there listening, please make sure you check her out.
Yes.
And I do truly feel like you're due for another episode in the future because
Yes.
this was just lit me up inside.
I
and
would
I
love it.
We could
Let's
have you on
more.
as a guest host. There's
for
a
real.
lot of
What an
space.
honor for you to be our first
Yes.
guest. I'm just
Yes.
like,
Have me on as much as you
Yes.
want. I would
Yes.
love to. This
We
was
will.
so fun.
And
and
loved
next
it.
time wine when I get this baby out of me.
Yes.
I know.
That's the next chapter.
Thanks for tuning in to A Splash More.
If you love this week's episode, please drop us a topic in comments, share this episode with a friend, and follow us so you never miss a splash.
And remember, keep owning your voice, take up space, and keep stepping into your most powerful self.
See you next week.
See you next week.